the architecture of absolute nothingness. Hold your breath. Before that oxygen reached your lungs, before the atoms of the air were even forged, there was a silence that would drown out any sound. Imagine a void so absolute that nothing felt like a crowded room. Then, in a twitch of cosmic uncertainty, a spark erupted, not in space, but as space. It was a searing seed of fire, millions of times smaller than a needle's eye, yet screaming with the potential of every sun and every soul that would ever exist. This microscopic fireball was trillions of times hotter than the sun's heart, a concentrated fever of pure energy. In this first, impossible instant, the laws we live by were not yet even a whisper. We cannot be 100% certain what stirred this absolute stillness, but the evidence points to a single, legendary heartbeat. A moment when the vacuum of non-existence decided to exhale, turning a nameless void into everything. The shattered static, Hubble's revelation. For eons, our ancestors' logic was a cage. We were convinced the heavens were a frozen monument, an eternal stage that had always been and would always be. But less than a century ago, Edwin Hubble looked through a lens and shattered 80 years of human arrogance. He didn't just see stars, he saw a mass exodus. Galaxial light was stretching, bleeding into a haunting, deep crimson, the redshift. It was the ghost of a beginning, a trail of light proving that the universe is not a museum, but an expanding wave. This revelation turned our reality inside out. If the cosmos is a growing skin today, then rewinding the clock brings us to a single, violent origin point. It suggests that our home has a birthday, a definitive spark ignited roughly 13.8 billion years ago. While science cautiously explores other models, this expanding fabric remains the sturdiest pillar of our creation story. It proves that we are not living in a static house, but on a journey that began with a single, fiery step. The Planck pulse, the shortest story ever told. To feel this birth, you must forget the rhythmic ticking of a clock. Our journey begins in a fracture of time so brief it defies human language, the Planck Time. A duration less than a trillionth, of a trillionth, of a trillionth, of a billionth of a second. In this microscopic pulse, the universe was a symphony of absolute unity. Gravity and light were indistinguishable, fused into one divine, superforce. The heat was a primal fever, 10 to the power of 32 degrees, a state where energy was so dense that logic itself began to melt. In this era, the tiny and the massive were one and the same. We call this the singularity, the ultimate locked door of physics. Was it truly a point of infinite weight, or does a new kind of reality hide within that first tick of the cosmic clock? We are still scratching at the surface of this ancient heat, trying to understand how such a small spark could carry the blueprints of infinity. The cosmic inflation, screaming into space. At a trillionth, of a trillionth, of a trillionth of a second, the superforce splintered like glass. It is believed this fracture released a flood of energy that triggered cosmic inflation. In less than a heartbeat, a speck smaller than a strand of DNA blossomed into a vast kingdom, 94 trillion kilometers wide. This was the moment the universe wrote its own rules. Tiny quantum tremors were stretched into the colossal structures that would one day become clusters of galaxies. As this frantic swelling slowed, the universe transformed into a boiling Quark Sea. Imagine a primal soup of raw potential, where particles moved with such violent speed they couldn't even form a single proton. The pressure was a physical weight that would have crushed existence itself. Yet, as the cosmos began to exhale and cool, the first building blocks of matter started to crystallize from this fiery ocean, preparing the ground for everything we see today. The sacred asymmetry, a triumph of matter. The first second hasn't even finished, but a war for the fate of reality is being fought in the dark. Matter and antimatter were born as twins, locked in a frantic dance of mutual destruction. For every billion particles that turned back into shadows, only one single particle of matter survived the slaughter. Look at your skin, your bones, the world around you. You are the survivor of that 1 in a billion mistake. A sacred asymmetry that allowed something to exist instead of nothing. By the end of this first legendary second, the universe was already 1,000 times larger than our entire solar system. It was a roaring sea of radiation and raw particles, the unfinished clay of every sun and planet yet to be born. We are the scraps of that ancient battle. We are the leftovers of a miracle that happened before the cosmic clock could even reach its first full tick. The emergence, from fog to first light. For the next 3 minutes, the universe was a cosmic furnace, forging the very first nuclei of hydrogen and helium. But then, for 380,000 years, the cosmos became a blind, suffocating prison. Light was a captive, unable to move, scattering off free electrons like a beam of light lost in a dense, glowing fog. The universe was an opaque wall of fire, keeping its secrets behind a veil of heat. Then came the moment of recombination. The temperature dropped, electrons found their homes, and the fog vanished. For the first time, light broke free and sprinted into the dark, leaving behind a faint glow we call the cosmic microwave background. But after this flash, the universe fell into a long, cold silence, the Dark Ages. For millions of years, there were no stars to guide the way, only vast, black clouds of gas waiting for gravity to pull them together and ignite the first nuclear hearts. Conclusion: the intelligent echo. 13.8 billion years later, a handful of stardust woke up, opened its eyes, and asked, "Why am I here?" We are the universe's way of reflecting on its own birth. We are the result of a process that began with a single, searing pulse and led to the complex intelligence of a species that builds machines to peer back into the dawn of time. We are the intelligent echo of that first ancient scream, still trying to read the script written in the first second of existence. What was there before the spark? Science cannot say. Perhaps there is no before, just as there is no further south than the pole itself. Or perhaps our universe is just one breath in an eternal cycle of birth and death. While we move closer to the truth every year, the secret remains locked in that first, miraculous second. As we look into the void, we realize, our story is the greatest mystery ever told, and we have only just begun to turn the page.